Ukraine and its allies have been demanding for quite some time now that Russian and Belarusian athletes should not be allowed to participate in the Paris Olympics 2024. In the latest development, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky took part in an online meeting attended by 35 ministers to discuss demands that Russian and Belarusian athletes should be banned from Olympics 2024. A Lithuanian Sports Ministry spokesperson also said that Zelensky's message to participants was not principles of neutrality cannot apply to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry has released a video of a routine sortie of its Tu-95MC nuclear-capable strategic bombers. The aircraft, escorted by Sukhoi Su-30 jet fighter jets, performed a 7-hour flight over the Bering Sea, which separates Russia and the US in the North Pacific. According to reports, Russia's strategic aviation carries out regular flights over neutral waters in the Arctic, North Atlantic, Baltic and Black Sea, and also the Pacific, with all flights strictly following international regulations on the usage of airspace. Ukraine's Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov has arrived in Brussels. Upon his arrival at NATO headquarters, Reznikov will be attending a defense ministers' meeting of the Transatlantic Military Alliance. Ukraine has been pushing for fighter jets from its Western allies as it braces itself for an expected Russian offensive. Western support has been key to Kiev's surprisingly stiff defense. After meeting top EU leaders in Brussels, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the country is at the cusp of its accession to European Union. The president said that there has been progress in the discussions with the UK regarding the supply of fighter jets, and there is a full understanding of each other's positions. Zelensky added that he had frank discussions about the conflict with Russia in meetings with French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Paris, and EU-Ukraine relations with the leaders of the EU in Brussels. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's right-wing coalition secures victory in regional elections. The win has strengthened the right's grip on power amid growing voter apathy. Less than 5 months after sweeping to power at the national level, the Conservative bloc took more than 55% of the vote in Lombardy, home to the financial capital of Milan, and around 50% in Lazio, which is centered on Rome. With election wins in 2 of Italy's wealthiest regions, the PM's coalition government has secured the grip on power. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman has said that the trilateral relationship among U.S., Japan and South Korea remains strong and only getting stronger as diplomats from the 3 countries held talks in Washington. This is their first trilateral dialogue of 2023 and the 5th such meeting during the Biden administration. Diplomats of all 3 countries discussed the security concerns of Pyongyang's nuclear weapons program, Russia's war in Ukraine and also tensions with China. Denmark's foreign minister met U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Washington to discuss support for Ukraine. Blinken said that both countries must work together in supporting the Ukrainian people and making sure that they have what they need to deal with the aggression from Russia. A new governing coalition was announced in Denmark in December after 42 days of talks following the November 1st general elections. gunman opened fire on the main campus of Michigan State University, killing 3 people and injuring 5 others, before an hour-long manhunt for the suspect ended with his death, apparently from a self-inflicted gunshot. The 43-year-old gunman had no known affiliation to the university and his motive remains a mystery. Details about the sequence of the events remain sketchy as of now, but the interim deputy chief of the university police has said that shots were fired in 2 locations, an academic building called Berkeley Hall and the Michigan State University Union building. According to reports, at least 8 people were injured while 2 were left in a critical condition after a U-Haul truck drove into pedestrians in Brooklyn in New York City. The incident happened when the police tried to pull over the rented truck. The driver tried to evade the police and hit several pedestrians. After a chase, he was taken into custody a few blocks away. Meanwhile, the sidewalks have been cordoned off and police have called it a rampage. Colombia's government and ELN rebels have resumed peace talks in Mexico City. The talks were the second round of negotiations aimed at achieving a ceasefire in the nearly 6-decade conflict. It followed 3 weeks of negotiations in Venezuela's capital that have only yielded modest results. Negotiations between Colombia and the National Liberation Army were suspended back in 2019, following a rebel attack on a police academy in Bogota, in which 23 people lost their lives. The talks resumed last November after President Gustavo Petro restarted peace talks. Peruvian President Dina Boluarte has vowed to crack down on narco-terrorism. The president was speaking at the funeral of 7 police officers gunned down in an area where drug traffickers operate in alliance with remnants of shining path of militants. The officers were ambushed last Saturday as they traveled through the remote Andean and jungle region known as WION. According to Interior Ministry, it is an area which is believed to produce around 3/4 of the country's cocaine. The attack was the deadliest single attack on police in more than a decade. A 17-year-old teenager was rescued from the rubble of a building in Turkey's Kahramanmaraş, some 8 days after last week's devastating earthquake. After being pulled out from the rubble, Mohammed Yaninar was placed in an ambulance for urgent medical care. State-owned news agency said that this 21-year-old brother, Baki Yaninar, was rescued after him. Both were placed in ambulances and taken to the hospital. Their conditions are currently unclear.
Ona değil abi. İleri. Gönderdim. Dur yavaş. Çek. Tamam çektim. Abi sen kendi arabana git.
The devastating earthquake that shook the bedrock of Turkey and its neighboring nation of Syria has now led to resentment among some Turks towards the millions of Syrian refugees in the country who are being blamed for looting amid the destruction and chaos. Several Turks in quake-hit towns and cities have accused Syrians of robbing damaged shops and homes. Syrians left homeless by the earthquake said that they had been kicked out of emergency camps and prompted a Syrian man to open a shelter in the city of Mersin just for his compatriots after they had faced racial slurs. Turkey is home to nearly 4 million Syrian refugees. This is nearly 500,000 Syrians residing, making up 1/4 of the population. Survivors in Turkey's quake-hit Adıyaman said that conditions were rapidly deteriorating as the country marked 1 week since the deadly disaster on Monday. With hopes of finding many more survivors in the rubble fast fading, the combined death toll in Turkey and neighboring Syria from 7.8 magnitude earthquake rose above 37,000 and looked set to keep increasing. In some respite, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has said that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has agreed to allow United Nations aid deliveries to opposition-held northwest Syria through 2 border crossings from Turkey for 3 months. He said that Assad agreed to open the crossings of Bab al-Salam and Al-Rai. This after UN aid chief Martin Griffiths met with the Syrian president in Damascus on Monday. The move comes a week after an earthquake struck Turkey and Syria, killing more than 37,000 people. Assad's agreement means that the United Nations could now use a total of 3 border crossings from Turkey to reach the northwest of war-torn Syria. Philippines has filed a diplomatic protest after a Chinese Coast Guard ship reportedly used military-grade laser light, temporarily blinding members of its Coast Guard vessel in the disputed South China Sea last week. Calling on Beijing, Philippines said that it must ensure that its vessel cease aggressive activities. The Philippine Coast Guard said that its vessel was assisting a Navy mission to deliver food and supplies to its troops stationed at 2nd Thomas Shoal. The Chinese Coast Guard ship maneuvered dangerously close to block the Philippine patrol vessel from approaching the 2nd Thomas Shoal, a submerged reef that has been occupied by Philippine forces. Ford Motor plans to build a $3.5 billion factory in Michigan that would employ at least 2,500 people to make lower-cost batteries for a variety of new and existing electric vehicles. The plant will be built on land being readied for industrial development about 100 miles west of Detroit. The facility is to start making batteries in 2026. Ford says that the plant will crank out 35 gigawatt-hours worth of batteries, enough to supply 400,000 vehicles per year. The company expects to be able to produce electric vehicles at a rate of 600,000 per year by late this year. A state of emergency has been declared in New Zealand as Cyclone Gabriel battered the country's North Island. According to officials, more rains and high winds are expected. Incidentally, the state of emergency will apply to Northland, Auckland, Tairawiti, Bay of Plenty, Waikato and also Hawke's Bay. According to officials, this is the 3rd time in the country's history that a state of emergency has been declared. Hundreds of homes have been destroyed so far and thousands of residents have been asked to evacuate. Spain's military emergencies unit has continued help to battle a forest blaze in Chile's southern region. The unit is part of the international help in Chile to help control dozens of raging wildfires that have killed at least 24 people. Emergency orders have already been issued in areas in the central southern region. The measure allows for greater cooperation with the military. A flower shop in Manila found a practical way to sell bouquets for Valentines by using vegetables instead of flowers. Customers can choose from a variety of vegetables from green or red chilies to ginger, garlic, tomato and onion as a floral arrangement, and then after Valentine's Day, use it for cooking. The shop has already sold more than a dozen vegetable bouquets on the eve of Valentine's Day. A music and dance festival in the Democratic Republic of Congo is promoting peace in the region. Artists from the Congo and Great Lakes sub-region got thousands of festival goers dancing with songs calling for reconciliation in a region plagued by armed conflict for more than 2 decades. Festival goers say that festival was organized well and centered around promoting peace. Amazon self-driving vehicle unit Zoox has said that it has successfully tested a robo-taxi with employees as passengers in a public road in a move to bring it closer to commercial service for the general public. The test was conducted between the building a mile apart at its headquarters in Foster City, California. It was part of the launch of a no-cost employee shuttle service that will also help the companies refine its technology. A zoo in Pennsylvania has come up with a unique Valentine's idea this year. They are celebrating the Day of Love with a pinch of salt by naming a bug after their exes. The ongoing feast is part of the zoo's Bug Off Valentine's Day campaign. For exactly $5, the Valley Zoo will name a cricket after your ex. For the past few weeks in the lead up to Valentine's Day, it's been filming the crickets getting fed to turtles, lizards, chickens and other animals and posting the videos to social media. A Hungarian supermarket onto sports now, a review into the chaos before the 2022 Champions League final between Liverpool and Real Madrid has said that organizers UEFA were responsible for the events which near led to a disaster. European soccer governing body UEFA apologized to Liverpool for initially blaming the Merseyside club's fans for mayhem following the release of an independent review. The final was delayed by 36 minutes after thousands of Liverpool supporters were unable to get into the stadium in Paris for the match, but Real won 1-0. French police were also filmed using tear gas on fans.